All right, folks, welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Superbook Sports. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am joined by my guy, Swipa, on the other side. We have had such a great time doing this show with you guys. We always enjoy getting together, usually on the weekends. Today is a
That's a
Monday.
fact.
We had to flip up the schedule just a little bit, but had a good time regardless. We're gonna have a fun official awards ballot selection here. Swipe and I have been going back and forth on this plenty over the course of these last few days, and we have a lot of takes, lots of different things that we've gone over. Swipa, how you doing, my guy?
Oh boy, I'm living. This is going to be really interesting. I think that there's a lot of players that have played really well this season, and I think there's a lot of players that deserve a lot of credit for some historically great things that they've done, which is why, want to set this up that there are omissions on this list. That's just because I think the talent has been so great across the board, but also if you don't see a player that you like, that it's at the top of the list, then I think I think you should just give it some patience, man, because look, there's just a lot of talent in the league right now, so it'll be fun.
There's
We'll
a
see how it
lot of
goes.
talent, a lot of stuff to go over. We'll have plenty of time to go over it, but I did think, hey, in order to give some people time to get in here, I wanted to go over your thoughts initially on Nuggets Hawks, just like any takeaways from that game. I know it's been a couple days now, but it
Yeah,
was a big win, big game for Denver.
yeah, 142, 110. They absolutely dominated that game, and I think Jamal Murray comes back 21 minutes, 16 points and 6 assists, 2 of 4 from 3. Everybody just was bombs away that night. I want to say the starters like 14 to 21 from 3 as well, something like that.
Something
Um,
crazy.
yeah, everybody was cooking. Porter 50% from 3, Jokic 50% from 3, if not better. Murray is 50% from 3. KCP was 6 of 9 or whatever I want to say. Christian Brown hit a 3. So I think a lot of this is the Nuggets they were in a situation where they needed to kind of just get another win with Jamal. Jamal getting a chance to get his feet wet again after being out for 7 straight games, which is basically 2 weeks worth of basketball. And they look dominant, man. And, competition aside, that team beats the Celtics twice, in over a week span. So they are a team that if you allow them to hang around and DeJounte Murray to chuck up 44 shots, they will beat you. And so the Nuggets didn't even give them an opportunity. They put the foot on the gas very early, and that really dictated turns for the rest of the game. So they took care of business. Thankfully, everybody walked away healthy. The Nuggets starters played exactly 3 quarters. Michael Porter played a little bit in the 4th quarter. He was in foul trouble, though, so he actually only ended up playing like 25 minutes or something like that. So it worked out. Denver Nuggets got another win.
Got another win. Jamal comes back 21 minutes, as you mentioned. Denver, I think everybody plays pretty well. Joker triple double. Although I thought he was a little bit shaky at the beginning, just not up to his normal amazing, not like perfect self is how I would describe it. Um, but the bench was great. Justin Holiday was a lot of fun to watch. Peyton Watson a lot of fun to watch, and Michael Malone very pleased after that game.
Right.
So lots of good things to
Mm-hmm.
take away from that. And I think that in general, Nuggets fans have to be pretty happy. The Nuggets have put themselves into a position where
Right.
they could get this 1 seed, and that would lead to a lot of very positive narratives heading into the playoffs. But doing so without Aaron Gordon in this last game, they look really good. They really do.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. They got this big game versus the Jazz and then the Timberwolves coming up. We'll see. That 2-game span is going to tell you they're going to be the 2nd seed, I think, or be the 1st seed. I think that's kind of what's on the table for them. And I think based on these next couple of games, this is going to determine what's going to happen at the bottom of the Western Conference as well. So that Timberwolves game has a lot of implications, not just for the Nuggets and for the Timberwolves, but I think for the rest of the Western Conference, basically from seed 7 through 10, and how you're trying to get slotted and what you want to do.
Going to be fascinating, man. I'm looking forward to it. This playoff run is going to be very interesting, but as he's mentioned, this final stretch going to be just as interesting too. But hey, everybody's here, not necessarily to hear us talk about Denver specifically, but to talk about the NBA awards. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that. Let's get started now. I put together our picks. I put them in a little binder here. just so that everybody can see them, everybody can see them on screen. Everybody along in the chat, thank you for hanging out. Thank you to our regulars for popping in. If you have any arguments, let us know. Let us
Right.
know exactly why. We want to hear
Woo!
it all. We want to hear all the reasons why we suck at our picks or why we're great. More often than not, I like to hear about why I'm great. That generally goes over pretty well.
Right.
But we've got a lot of stuff going down, and I think the first place where we have to start, my guy,
Mm.
is with the most valuable player award. Dun
Yeah.
da da da. Who did you have for the MVP?
So that's tough, man. You know, this whole year, there's been about four different players that you have. I think four players that had a legit argument for number one. And start off with Joel Embiid, first 34 games of the year, played 21 of those at home, and they were just absolutely dominant. They were just shellacking everybody that they faced that season. And then I think they had a really impressive win versus the Thunder, a great win versus the Denver Nuggets. They had a win versus the Timberwolves as well. Just taking care of business, man. They were just dominating. Joel was averaging about 35, 10, and 6, which is just crazy. And then he was shooting really efficiently from the field as well. And then Jokic, he was already in the mix. He started the year off with a lot of momentum, started off that 20-point triple-double versus Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And then from that, he was able to carry it over. And it was going to look like it'd be one of them. Again, we're going to do 4 straight year of Embiid, Joker, but then Embiid goes down, obviously, with the meniscus injury. Joker, just from that point on, has just been an absolute savant. Luka Doncic and SGA have been right there, and especially SGA. They carrying the Thunder to the top of the Western Conference for most of the year. And then just, obviously the 50, 30-point games, the defense, everything. So I actually have Nikola Jokic, my MVP pick for this season, averaging 26.4 points per game, 12.4 rebounds per game, 9 assists, has a 60.7% effective field goal percentage, 62.4% from 2, 34.7% from 3. He's also shooting 82.3% from the free throw line on just 5.6 attempts per game, leading the NBA in PER, box plus minus, win shares per 48, win shares, and VORP. Most of the traditional advanced analytics for the MVP award. He's currently, if you look on the Basketball Reference MVP projector website, 55.6% favorite to win the MVP, Rod.
65% is pretty good. If you look at any of the NBA odds in terms of the betting sites and
Yeah.
all the apps, they all have him as a major favorite. Everybody here has seen the straw poll that came out from ESPN, where he had 85 first place votes there, which generally at this stage of the season reflects where the
Right.
populace is going to vote. Oftentimes it's about within 5 to 10 first place votes off. And with him, he's already at 85. The
Right.
lowest he could probably get to is about 75 from that. I think it's pretty clear that he's going to win MVP, but
Yeah.
he's my pick too, just with the way that he has put the team on his back. I asked both Christian Brown and Michael Malone that earlier today at practice, and
Yeah.
they were very celebratory of his success. The entire team, the entire organization is very celebratory of Joker's success. Everybody wants this for him. Everybody, and it's funny, man, like you would think that a player that wins MVP, that gets all the credits, that gets all
Yeah.
of the praise for the team, that guys in the background would be a little bit like, well, what about me? What about what I've been doing? What about our like the rest of us for the contributions that we get? And that's just not how it works within the
Right.
Nuggets organization. Everybody wants to celebrate his success because when it's his success, it is the entire team's success. And they very clearly are like going to win it. Like Jokic is going to win it, and I think the
Yeah.
entire team is celebrating it.
And just to be clear, for people to understand, this season, Jokic among all of the MVP candidates, the Denver Nuggets are a plus 11.5 when he's on the court this year. Tatum is a plus 12.2. The problem is Tatum is there's still like a plus 8 when he's not on the court,
It's
because
insane.
the Boston Celtics just have one of the best teams that we've seen in the last 24 seasons since 2000. Jokic is a plus 11.5. They have a 122.0 offensive rating and a 110.5 defensive rating. And then right after him, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a plus 10.4. And then you got Joel Embiid, a plus 9.5. And then you have some other MVP candidates like Giannis Antetokounmpo, a plus 6.4, and then Luka Doncic, a plus 5.3. So a lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, that's just because Jokic has the most help in the league and, they're the NBA champions. What do you expect? But I really just think, Ryan, Jokic has not gotten enough credit for being able to do this without Jamal for 23 games. 23 games. They didn't have Jamal, and another 3, they also didn't have him, just because, he went out early in the game. So I just think Jokic is just kind of, everybody, some people keep saying like Gilbert Arenas, Giannis has moved into LeBron territory. They don't want to get MVPs anymore. Well, I just don't think I don't know how you can do that when a player in the same age group as you, the last 4 seasons has been one of the top 2 MVP candidates, and you haven't been there once. Yeah. So that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's also like they've been sub 500 since Doc Rivers has gotten there. Like,
right.
We don't need to justify why Giannis is not there. Like,
right.
the facts have spoken for themselves, despite the fact that individually, if you just boil it down to points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage, he has some great numbers, which
right.
I don't know about you. I've seen a lot of that from Bucks Twitter over the course of these past few months, boiling the MVP award down to just those numbers.
Right.
And it's just not how it works, man. Like, that's just not how it is. So he has been pretty negative with their bench, like very negative, actually. And like, that's just not going to fly when it comes to an MVP award where you're trying to lift everybody up. And like, they would probably be the 7th or 8th best team in the West.
That's crazy.
Like,
the Mavs would be the 2 seed
insane.
right now,
like
in the Eastern Conference.
What are we doing?
right.
What are we doing here? It's just like, it should not be this difficult, but that's just how it is. Look, we've beaten it to death. Joker's going to win MVP.
3 and 4. That's going to be one of 9 players ever to win 3 MVPs in their career. And then he has a chance with him and 4 players to have 3 MVPs and 2 finals MVPs in their career at age 29.
And who are those players?
I believe it's Michael Jordan. It's, I want to say Magic Johnson. And then it's going to be, I want to say it's LeBron.
Is it Kareem maybe?
Well, I think there's 4. So I think there's 4 already. I think Kareem, LeBron, Magic, Michael. And then it'll be, if Jokic does, it'll be Jokic.
So the top 4 greatest players of all time, in my opinion.
That's exactly what the list is. Yeah.
Okay. Sick. Right. Cool. All right. Well, hey, moving right along. I think the next one that I have on the list for us is Defensive Player of the Year. Who would you pick? Who was a couple of the guys that were close?
Yeah, to me, this is not even like, oh, Larry Bird's on the list, by the way, too. So Larry Bird is also on that list. But it's Rudy Gobert. I really don't think there's much debate here. The Minnesota Timberwolves have had the number 1 defense from the start of the year to now. And I just think for some reason, Rudy, they have a 105.9 defensive rating with him on the court this year. He plays 34 minutes a game. Ryan Blackburn, he's playing 34 minutes a game. And as the lead anchor on the defense, a 105.9 defensive rating, it's just like unheard of how dominant he has been around the basket. And they're, again, at the top of the Western Conference. This is circa 2021 again, where Rudy Gobert, best player on the team, arguably, over Anthony Edwards. And they're doing this yet again. And I just don't think that there's a player that disrupts a defense as much as he does on a regular season basis. You can put Bam and Anthony Davis, some other than a conversation in the playoffs. But right now, regular season, I think that this should be a near unanimous pick for Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that I have Rudy there. Victor has made a massive jump in terms of, there's a possibility that he sort of breaks into people's lists. I know that Brian Windhorst was talking him up in terms of, I might actually vote him for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not sure I would go that direction. I would also like to credit a lot of the other guys on the T-Wolves for just playing a great sound team defensive scheme, and for Rudy to really elevate that above. Like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards when he's locked in, and he's mostly been locked in. And then they've got some smart vets like Rudy, like Kyle Anderson, Mike Conley, guys like that. But I do agree with you that Rudy is the pick. He is the guy to really put forth on this. Like, they are by far the best defensive team, and he's by far the most impactful defensive player. Like, it's not even close right now. There's so much that he does. And surprisingly enough, his scheme versatility is what really makes them great.
Yeah, he's elite, dude.
they don't necessarily need to drop all the time. Like he's not just a drop big. He can go at the level. He can switch. He can guard in space. He can do that way more than some other guys. And like he deserves a ton of credit for evolving. Those Utah years, like he's better than that, I think.
Yeah, I think like, Rudy, because of the playoff stuff with the Jazz, everybody's kind of like has these really weird opinions on him sometimes. Like, well, if he was that good, he wouldn't be getting exposed. Like Boyan, Donovan, Mike, Royce. Like, are we serious about this? And so really for me, it's just not even a conversation, man. Like he's the most important defensive player in the league in the regular season.
No doubt. Moving on to rookie of the year, I believe. I think we don't have to spend too much time on this one. We both had Victor
I got Chet
Wembanyama.
Holmgren. He got him to the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. He's also in talks for one of the All-NBA defense teams. I got Chet Holmgren here. Oh, I'm sorry. I got Victor Wembanyama.
Oh, my mistake. I spoiled the moment. No, Victor has been unbelievable. The ad that Nike just ran for the Eclipse was genius. Like he's an alien.
How long had that been in production, do you think?
Oh my God. Ooh. I don't know because the NBA has been using the alien emoji with him a lot. I'm not sure how long that's been going on, honestly. Like I wonder if it was a LeBron thing where he called him an alien or somebody called him an alien and then it just stuck. I don't remember actually.
Rudy and Wemby, they're going to have their little tussle this year. Wemby, by next year, is he going to be like, if they had a competent roster around him where they're just like sniffing the playoffs, he could win 5-6 DPOIs in his career just off of just his length alone, like in the fact that he's so mobile. So Wemby's incredible. He's the future. I think he'll be a top 10 player by the end of next season. He's that special. He's that good. He's going to be the face of the league one day. And right now, it's just a matter of time until he turns into one of the GOAT level players. I think he's going to be right there with Luka, LeBron in terms of by age 25. You just know, like, this is a Hall of Fame player.
I think I saw a stat, I think it was yesterday, that he has the most games already in NBA history with 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 blocks.
Okay, well, Jokic is going to stack up championships right now. So, and then I think some of these other players, they need to do it as well.
It might not be points. It might be 3-point attempts,
right?
Or it might be 3-pointers made or something like that. Because 5 points sounds a little bit weird. I think it's 5 3-pointers made. But like you are right. Like we're so glad that Joker's in this era and not in the next one because that would be hell.
Well, no, and to be fair, I don't want to sound like that because I think Joker would give anybody problems. I'm just saying that I think now the Western Conference is already. It's not the East. You don't have a 47-win team at the top of at the Western Conference. Like, it's just such a dogfight. Like right now in the play-in, Luka just got out. Durant and Booker are in the play-in right now. LeBron and AD are in the play-in.
In order to kick people out of the play-in, you need to put in Hall of Famers back into it. Like that's how it is. Imagine if Wemby had gotten drafted to Charlotte.
Him and LaMelo.
Well, not even that. Just like, man, now we don't have to worry about Wemby as much in the Western Conference. Like, not like it's because the entire, like all 15 teams are going to be good at various points. Like it's going to be so difficult for like everybody to kind of get to 35.
Wemby's incredible. I want to be very, very loud about this now because I want this to be known. It's not a bandwagon thing. I think Wemby is going to be one of those players, and I want to make sure that we're giving him, proper credit. Because you're not going to get that Braun nonsense from me, like Ricky Davis and all them, Darius Miles. Like, well, he's got to come in the league and earn his stripes. No, he don't. It's Victor Wembanyama. No, he don't.
It is Victor Wembanyama. That's a good point. All right, 6th man of the year is next. Who did you have for 6th man of the year?
Man, that was tough because there was a lot of really solid names that were on the list for 6th man of the year, but I wanted to reward the entire season. I know that there were some guys that kind of came up late, but this year, Malik Monk has played 72 games this season. He's played 72 games. Malik Monk this season averaged 15.4 points per game, 5.1 assists. He averaged just about 2.9 rebounds, almost 3, 83% from the free throw line, 53% from 2 as a guard.
It's crazy.
53% from 2 as a guard, 35% from 3 on 6 attempts a game, off the bench, by the way. And he was able to do this. He's arguably, and he might be, on some nights, he's the second at times, but he's the third most important player on that roster. That includes Keegan Murray, who's also a really good player. But Malik Monk did everything for the Sacramento Kings. Everybody kind of has admitted they're not going to win a playoff series because he's not there. So the fact that you can have a 6-man of the year be that good, that people are now saying that you don't have a chance to win a playoff series. Now, Kevin Huerter's not there, but for Malik Monk, what he offers as a playmaker, as a creator, as a spacer, and even as a positive defender in some situations, look, I'm very happy for him. He's going to get a big bag this offseason. He deserves every part of it.
He deserves it. He's also been one of those guys for them that has been impactful in the clutch, where they can turn to him. As often as De'Aaron Fox is the guy that they like to go to in those moments, Malik Monk is also a guy that they can trust, where they get down to a close game situation, and you know that a good decision is being made when Malik Monk has the ball. He's had some really great moments, including, I think, against Golden State. So I think that there is a lot there that people should be crediting. It does kind of feel like a cop-out in a little bit of ways where, hey, you're going to get the guy that, hey, guard with most points, guard with most assists, guard with most playmaking opportunities off the bench.
Right.
That's the guy that kind of
But I think that's the
gets
thing,
credit
though.
for this
Who else
award.
could do it? Emmanuel Quickly, when he was coming off the bench for the Knicks, for sure, he had an argument. But there's just not a lot of people that can do that consistently. CP3 start the year off looked incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think there's a combination of youth, athleticism, and skill that does all that at that high level.
The guy that I agonized over in whether to give them this award was Naz Reid.
Nas has been incredible too, yeah.
Nas is one of those guys that he started some games lately, but the way
Yeah.
that he has replaced Karl Anthony Towns, this
Mhm.
is what a 6-man is supposed to be, right? Like, guy goes down, need somebody to fill in the gaps, and Naz Reid has been a big man that's basically shooting 50% from the field, 40% from 3, dynamic, skilled,
14
pretty
points a
solid
game.
defensively. Like,
Yeah.
he's a guy that I think, man, I agonized over whether to give him this spot instead, but I think that I gave it to Malik Monk. I thought that was fair.
42% on 3 on 5.1 attempts a game off the bench.
It's crazy. That's like guard numbers.
He's insane.
Yeah.
Oz is such a tweener. He has like a bag too. He's like not like uber physical, but he's physical enough to give you a lot of issues if you have a smaller person on him. And he just makes his shot work. And again, Tim Connolly, $12 million a year for Naz Reid, which is an absolute bargain.
Undoubtedly. Like, it's one of those, that's one of those contracts that you love to get that like, hey, I'll mention it in just a little bit here, but one of those contracts that help you win a championship for sure. So
Right.
look, and Malik Monk though, same thing. Like, he's a guy that absolutely deserves it. There were a couple of other guys that you could credit, like Norman Powell and players of that nature, but
Right.
I think Malik Monk is the right choice.
Right.
Okay. Hey, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to chat about the rest of the awards. But first, I got to tell everybody about our good friends over at Superbook Sports, the most trusted name in sports gambling with a direct line to Las Vegas. You can use their promo code MileHigh to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, Superbook will match your first bet up to $250 with promo code MileHigh. Download the Superbook Sports app, enter the promo code, you'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back on Weekends with Swipa. And we're back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate all the love and support on the podcast, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below. That would really, really affect things in a positive manner. All right. Next one. Most improved player of the year. We both had Kobe White. This was a tough one.
Yeah, but shout out to Kobe White, bro. Tyrese Maxey's going to win it, Ryan. He's going to win it because I think people love the All-Star and the glitz and glam and all that stuff in the 50-point games. And I think he's a worthy winner. But if you're talking about actual improvement from the season prior to, Kobe White last year, 9.7 points per game. He averaged 2.8 assists per game. and he shot 37.2% from three, and he did shoot 54% from two. But this year, Ryan, it went from 9.7 to 18.9, from 2.8 to 5.1, from 2.9 rebounds to 4.6. And his effective shooting dropped just ever so slightly, but he's a better 3-point shooter this year on almost 3 more attempts per game. And also, one of the reasons why the Chicago Bulls are one of the clutchest teams in the NBA this year. Kobe White's passing and his shot making are very good. So he has made for me the biggest leap of any player, probably, at least as a guard, across this season.
One of the numbers that I wanted to make sure to share on this one, let me just find it again here real quick. Tyrese Maxey has 204 3-pointers made this season.
Yeah.
Kobe White has 203. Like, as much volume as Tyrese Maxey has, as the role that he has creating, and he's been a first option for Philly for a lot of the time without Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And Maxey's had some great moments, and like the 50-point games have been awesome, but he's also really had some low points without Joel Embiid out there. Like, Kobe White's best next player is DeMar DeRozan or Nikola Vucevic or Alex Caruso.
Right.
Like Kobe White has really had to grow into that role, and from where he was to where he is now, which I think is the point of the award, like he absolutely deserves it. One other name I do want to throw out there, Jalen Johnson, who was playing with Atlanta. He is not actually eligible because he's only played, I think, 55 games. Right. But he's been good. He's gone from like 5 points and 4 rebounds to 16 points and 8 rebounds in like from year 2 to year 3, just growing into that role. So he deserves some mention there, but he's obviously not going to get it to the 65 game rule.
Yeah. Again, there's multiple players that could have got this. I've been so impressed with Kobe White and what he was able to become. He's going to be a borderline all-star player next year.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be able to get off of Zach LaVine or DeMar, or whatever they decide they want to do, and be able to trust that they're going to have another guard that's going to be able to set the table like that and to play well. And you know what? Kobe could have been had this last offseason for fairly cheap. Yeah. Because he wasn't playing super well, and then he's moved himself to a completely different tier of player. So shout out to Kobe White.
I didn't believe in it when they signed him to that contract. I was critical of it. I thought that would be bad because they signed Javon Carter, they signed Kobe White, they had all of the guys that they had in house, and I was like, why are they doing this? What are they doing? They also had Ayo Dosunmu, who's also very good. Like, clearly they're just trying to retain their good players, which they're good young players, which, hey, good on them.
Somebody please take Ayo off their hand, man. I think he's another one that could have just like a mad boom if he's in a different situation.
6-man in Denver?
Please let it happen. You can imagine Jokic and Ayo with KCP.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I can. Thank you for asking. Next slide. Clutch player of the year. We both had DeMar DeRozan. This was a tough one, though.
Yeah, this is very tough. This is very tough.
There were 3 candidates for me: Nikola Jokic, DeMar DeRozan, and Stephen Curry. I think that those 3 really separated themselves throughout the year, both with numbers, but also just with moments. Jokic obviously has the big game winner in Golden State. I can envision Steph Curry chewing on his mouth guard, like in my mind,
just staring into
the blank distance. But Steph's obviously had his moments too. He's been super efficient as a shooter and a scorer, like on volume in those moments too. But DeMar is the guy that separates it because he has enough of those, not just clutch moments, but like, we need you and we don't have anything else. We need you to drag us over the finish line. And he makes enough of those shots that he deserves this credit here.
Look, DeMar DeRozan this year, and some people are going to say, well, Steph Curry was the early favorite to win it. He's the favorite betting right now. But if you look at the numbers, Steph Curry's played 2 more games in the clutch than DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has 177 total points, and Steph Curry is 186. DeMar's also shooting 50% from the field. So, great. Steph Curry in the clutch, though, is shooting 31 of 67 from 3 for 46%. So that's just crazy. That's obviously like just bonkers. DeMar 7 to 15, very low volume, 46%. He's shooting 87.7% from the free throw line on 73 attempts as well. And he is a plus 95 in the clutch this season. And also, again, one of the reasons why They're also, I think, the second best clutch team, if I remember, on a net rating basis in the NBA so far this year, if I have that exact number correct. So he's been really good. He's been incredible. He helped put away the Timberwolves the other day in a very memorable game. So DeMar DeRozan gets it from me, but again, Steph Curry and Nikola Jokic were right there. They both have been, all three of those players have been excellent in the clutch this year.
You know who's leading in clutch plus minus this year? Kobe White.
He is.
That's interesting.
The Bulls are just crushing all your hopes in the clutch this year.
Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, Michael Porter Jr., DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
DeMar DeRozan's played 39 games in the clutch. Nikola Jokic has played 35. DeMar's at plus 95. Jokic at plus 85. That's really where it comes down to. And like Denver is a machine. They operate really well together. Jokic obviously at the center of it, but I do think that DeMar deserves the lion's share of the credit there. And it's fair to put him as the clutch player on this list.
Right.
Although between those two and Steph, I'd be fine with it going in either of those ways. But last I looked at the odds for clutch player of the year, like Jokic was at plus 10,000, which is
because it's narrative. Like clutch player is all narrative, though. It's not actually based on actual basketball stuff. Relative to the other awards.
I should have guessed.
Well, relative to the other awards, I think clutch player of the year is so new. It's like, who do we feel was the clutchest player this year?
Yeah, there's something to that. Okay, next slide. Coach of the year, we both have Mark Daigneault.
Yeah, that's a wash.
OKC, this one, like, it could have gone between him, Jamal Mosley, Chris Finch, guys like that, but I think Mark Daigneault is a very deserving candidate here.
Joe Mazzulla as well. I want to give him his credit. You know, they won a lot of games. I know. I also am in the same mindset, but I want to give him credit. Also, Eric Spoelstra's dealt 32 different starting lineups this year. Hasn't produced a lot of wins, but no one else has had to deal with that in the NBA. Taylor Jenkins has had his entire roster gutted, and he somehow made Vince Williams, G.G. Jackson, and a host of other players extremely relevant this year. So he deserves a lot of credit. And then Michael Malone, who, you know, whatever. He doesn't have Jamal Murray for 23 games, almost 26. They're going to either be first or second in the West again, and whatever. He has the MVP, so therefore he's not going to get any love.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that's kind of how it is, but like Malone will probably never get that credit. We've talked about this before, but
until
new
Jokic
coach
retires,
on the block,
and Jokic the next generation in 2000 and what's this year 24 in 2030 35 33 when we get that next generational player, and Malone is like in his pop era where he has 5 rings already.
That'll be okay. I think he would take that too. He'd probably be okay. Maybe he can swap out with Doc Rivers as the top 15 coach of all time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, I mean, Daigneault is one of those guys that his team does exactly what they are supposed to do in high pressure moments and throughout a game to either get back into it or to extend a lead. And the out of timeout stuff that they do, the principles that they have, the energy that they have towards each other, like that's a good culture. And I'm pretty sure that he is the guy that started that up with how like nobody ever like had their roles defined with that group for a little bit other than Shea. And he like everybody has kind of risen, like the cream has kind of risen to the top there, obviously, but Daigneault's done a good job of really facilitating that to be the environment that it is.
Yeah, and again, no one expected them to do this. They're like a plus 12, I think, on the season in wins at least. So I think they have just made a significant jump. Cason Wallace has played well. Josh Giddey has adopted to a brand new role this year because he's been guarded like he's a non-shooter, non-floor spacer. I think Jalen Williams looks like he's going to be an all-NBA player maybe next year, just year 2. And they got SGA and Chet and Cason and whoever they get in the draft this year.
Sam Presti deserves another executive of the year retroactively.
Right. So they have 14,000 picks, I think is the accurate number between now and 2027, something around there. Maybe
I think it's give or take 14.
Right. So I think Mark has done a tremendous job. He deserves the award probably just as much as Mike Brown did last year. So he'll be close to unanimous, I think.
Yeah, Chris Finch, obviously, like we mentioned, deserves some credit.
Right.
Joe Mazzulla, I guess. But Jamal Mosley is another guy. Like, Jamal Mosley, the Magic should not be that good.
They might finish at number 2.
Yeah, the fact that they are even in that conversation It
Right.
says a lot about the East, but it says a lot about Jamal Mosley and the way that he's played or the way that he's coached.
Yeah, and
Um,
again, I would like to note this that Jamal Mosley, people didn't like him for a while, but I just think he got a competent roster. They have one of the best defenses, if not the best in the Eastern Conference in the regular season. And it's Paulo Franz and Jalen Suggs and Wendell Carter Jr. when he's healthy, and Jonathan Isaac and Mo Wagner and Anthony Black and Markelle Fultz and Gary Harris. They might be the 2 seed. That's incredible. Look, Jamal Mosley, you deserve all the credit for what you're doing. He's basically the Willie Green of the Eastern Conference, but they're just even better than the Pelicans.
I think that Willie Green might not be that good.
I mean, I think for me, Willie Green solidified he's at least a good coach when he had the number one net 5-man lineup 2 years ago when they had all those injuries. Jackson Hayes, Valanciunas, Brandon Herb, and CJ McCollum, and they were absolutely cooking teams with that lineup.
It's true.
Jackson, you see what he's doing with the Lakers right now.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next slide. Executive of the year. We both have Brad Stevens. It has to be Brad. Like they turned it into absolutely turned it into a crazy year for the NBA. And like Brad is the guy who was at the center of that all.
Right.
Did a nice job with the trades that he made. But I did want to shout out Tim Connolly because like we talked about, Tim's never going to win this award, but he's now built up 2 separate franchises. And the decisions that he got clowned for last year were also really fucking good. They were really, really good.
Right.
And like the Rudy Gobert move, defensive player of the year, Anthony Edwards and building around him, trading for Mike Conley.
Trading for Mike Conley, getting rid of D'Lo, even though he's a good player.
Good player,
didn't fit. Right.
Building up Jaden McDaniels. I know he doesn't get credit for that because he came in after, but trading for Monte Morris, trading for a variety of guys, adding Kyle Anderson, like adding Nikola Alexander Walker. Like,
don't bring him up.
Like, come on, man. Like he has done a great job.
2 years, $9 million deal for Nikola Alexander Walker, by the way. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Very reminiscent of the early Will Barton extension, by the way.
Anyway, dude, he just is such a mastermind. And Brad Stevens, once Brad Stevens finagled for Marcus Smart and a couple assets and a couple second-round picks, Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, it was over. He was winning the award, and just so happens they're going to win like 65, 66 games this year.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of point to that, but I did want to shout out both guys for that reason.
Right.
Just like pretty crazy to see. Okay, what is next? I want to make sure that I know. Okay, are we about to get into first team? Okay, we are. I have a pick here on first team that I think a lot of people might disagree with. It's gonna rile up some feathers for sure.
Oh my goodness, he's gonna have Victor Wembanyama first team. Okay, I'm ready for it. Whoever's averaging 21, 25.
LeBron James.
I don't have an issue with that.
LeBron James. I knew that you wouldn't have an issue with that. I think there are a variety of other people that might have an issue with that.
So let's just build into why, because I think that's why people need to hear that. Because what's going to happen is Celtics fans are going to see this. They're going to see, oh, Jason Tatum, he's not going to be top 3 MVP candidate. You said SGA and Luka. You're going to say that Joe Mazzulla wasn't coach of the year, so he's not going to be in those convos. Brad Stevens did get executive of the year, which I think speaks to what their team is. And then you're going to say, so Jason Tatum is best player on best team, one of the best regular season teams ever. And you're going to have LeBron James, who's in the play-in, or Kevin Durant, who's in the play-in, over him. And I'm going to say to you very confidently, I think Tatum is in the discussion, but Tatum's in the discussion with LeBron, KD, and Kawhi. Can you please read LeBron James' numbers this year? And that way we can give some context to how good he's actually been at 38, 39 years old for people that might be sleeping a little bit to say, how do you have a 38-year-old LeBron making first-team All-NBA? I'm just telling y'all, he's been spectacular and shooting 42% from 3 this season as well.
25.4 points per game, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Like the assist number has crept up there once again. And he's done a great job of setting up the entire team, the entire table. Shooting 53.6% from the field, 41% from 3. He's better numbers than they were last year by a lot.
Right.
despite the fact that the points were higher last year. I think that he's a better player than he was last year.
Yeah.
He made third team All NBA last year.
Yep.
Um, like you said, he's shooting 42% from three. If I go over to EPM, he
Yep.
is sixth, or excuse me, seventh in the entire NBA in EPM.
Yeah.
The only guys that are above him that I didn't have on here were Kawhi Leonard
Yep.
and Joel Embiid.
Yep.
Embiid is not eligible,
Yeah.
as everybody knows. Kawhi Leonard, I was very close, but I thought that he was very much in the second team level, because I was between Tatum, LeBron, and Durant
Yeah.
for this final spot.
But just to be clear about this, though, bro, people were like, well, what about Tatum's played 72 games, LeBron 68, KD 71, and Kawhi 68. They're all in the same tier in games played. All the advanced stats, by the way, they lean LeBron.
Yeah.
BPM, BORP, EPM, they all lean LeBron. He's the most efficient scorer of all four of the players. Kevin Durant's the best from three. And then you got Kawhi Leonard, who's the best from the free throw line. Kawhi Leonard also leads them in steals per game. LeBron is leading them in assists per game. Tatum has rebounds over everyone. And I would argue this season, Ryan, from amongst LeBron, Durant, Tatum, and Kawhi, Tatum's the worst scorer of the group. And that's his best skill set. So that's what I think for me is so difficult. Go ahead.
I do think that he has an argument for best defender.
Him and Kawhi, I think Kawhi's been incredible. Well, actually, to be fair, Kevin Durant's going to get some all defense votes this year. So will Tatum. But I don't want to undermine like the fact that Kawhi, especially when he was fully loaded, healthy, he was a tier 1 defender for most of the year. And I think Kevin Durant also deserves some love. He's going to get some second team mentioned. But I think Tatum obviously is in the convo as well.
Point being is that like only one of those guys can get first team. LeBron doing what he's doing right now has been crazy.
Right.
I don't credit Anthony Davis as much for their success as Swipa does. I don't credit. I credit LeBron more than Anthony Davis, because I think LeBron's job is a lot more difficult.
I think LeBron's the best player on the team.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of people that keep trying to flip that. It's not there. It's just not. I watched the playoffs last year. I know what happened.
Right.
Let's move.
That's tough, bro. I got Kevin Durant. Just to explain Kevin Durant real quick. Kevin Durant's averaging 27.4, 6.7, 5.2 assists, 1 steal a game, 1.2 blocks a game. He's going to get all defense nods. 42% from three on insane volume. And by the way, that's dropped from like 49% for a large portion of the year. 86% from the free throw line. 58.6 effective field goal percentage, 71 games played this year. By far the best player on their roster. He manned most of the unit this year in the first 30 games of the year when they had to deal with all those injuries, and Kevin Durant was keeping them afloat. He's been excellent all year. He deserves the credit. Kevin Durant this year, he is 35, and he's been good as he's been at his apex since he's been like that post-young KD era. I think KD's been incredible. He doesn't get a lot of love just because, he's playing with Phoenix and everything else. People are so used to the scoring, but Kevin Durant is the man. I love Kevin Durant. I love everything he's done this year. He gets that slight nod for me over LeBron.
I hear a crazy stat.
What?
Kevin Durant has played more total minutes this year than Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
Like, for him to do that, and for him to be out there as much as he is and carrying as much of a burden for them as he has, that's insane. And like, we got to watch him. We got to see him come into Denver and do what he did, like, to Denver multiple times, and just has been great in those situations. So credit to him. Like, I
playing
didn't have him there, but
37.1 minutes per game, by the way.
That's
come on.
How does one do that? Like,
come on. Yeah. At 35 years old, and he's better, and he's getting better.
Man, let's take a quick break actually before we get to our second teams, third team, and the other All NBA teams. We'll go through those pretty quickly, folks, but wanted to take a quick break and talk about Kim Becker.
What's up, guys? Kim Becker here with Mile High Sports. Make sure you guys are following us on social media so that you never miss a Mile High Sports daily. Monday through Friday morning, we'll post a video hosted by me catching you up on everything you need to know when it comes to sports right here in the Mile High State. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, we're there, and we've got you covered for everything Colorado sports.
All right. shout out Kim Becker. Shout out to the Denver, the Mile High Sports Daily, which does a great job over for the MHS YouTube channel and on all our socials. Make sure to go check those out. She does a fantastic job. All right. First team All NBA out of the way here. Let's go to second team All NBA.
Yeah.
This was an interesting one. This was a tough one. I am surprised that you didn't have one of the names on this list, but we both had Jason Tatum. I had Kevin Durant when you had Kevin Durant on first team. You had LeBron when I had LeBron on first team. We each had Kawhi. We each had Jalen Brunson. The only place where we really differ is with the two Anthonys, Anthony Edwards and Anthony Davis.
Well, brother, I think that this is where we split, because I think for some reason Anthony Davis's season has been very much slept on for some reason. AD this year, he's averaging 24.5 points per game, 12.6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's on pace to play more games than any season since his Pelicans career season. His career season had like 2016, 17, I think. 1.2 steals, 2.4 blocks, 55% from the field, 82% from the line. The advanced analytics also lean Anthony Davis over Anthony Edwards as well. I think he's still been one of the three most important defenders in the NBA this year. When he's on the floor, again, the metrics don't always tell the story, I think, for what he does on them from a night-to-night basis. They don't have another plus defender on the roster outside of Vando and LeBron when he's tuned in. I just think the job that he's done this year doesn't get talked about. And he's played 74 games. 74 games this year for Anthony Davis. And I just think that he has been absolutely dynamite this year. And I give him more respect for this season, maybe than any season I've seen from him since that 1920 bubble run.
Yeah, I get it. I understand why. For posterity's sake, Anthony Edwards is at 75 games. And Anthony Edwards is averaging 26, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yep.
He doesn't have the greatest efficiency when it comes to making all of the correct decisions and making all of the correct moves and shooting the most efficient shots.
Yeah.
That's not going to be his game. But he also doesn't have the greatest offensive situation around him. Whereas Anthony Davis, I think, has a great offensive situation around him.
A much worse defensive situation.
Defensive situation is not great, but I did look at these numbers. Davis only, like, when he's on the floor, they're at like a 114 defensive rating. And when he's off the floor, they're at like 116.
I get it.
It's not that impactful in terms of the on-off switch, in terms of like what they look like when he's not out.
But I think that's when the metrics don't tell the full story, though, on a player's impact, though. I think that's I definitely understand that, but I think a lot of this is AD. It's obviously a natural 4, but there is no other option for him. And so for Anthony Edwards, I'm actually going to make a switch for my third team, by the way. I think for Anthony Edwards, though, I think he's been really good, really dominant, but I think just the value, just player for player alone this year, I just think AD's been able to contribute more to his team overall success. But again, I think a lot of that, though, is like Anthony Davis is in just a different situation than Edwards over the course of the year. But I have no issue with Edwards. I love Edwards.
I just can't justify having 2 Lakers in the top 10, just in terms of first team and second team value, when their team has still been struggling. Like they have been struggling to get out of the plan.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, like I could have justified having Devin Booker here as well, and he'll be on the third team. But it is like they're also kind of in that same situation. Any other mentions here? Jalen Brunson has been the top 10 player in the NBA this year.
Shout out, man. He's been so good.
He's been really, really good. Kawhi, we didn't talk about too much, but he has been steady for them. He's played. That's the most important thing. Just doing a great job for them for the most part. But I did like we saw the Nuggets just lose to the Clippers without him. So I wonder if there is like he is replaceable in some ways for what they do, but because they have Paul George and James Harden.
Yeah. So okay. All right. Let's go to third team. I got to change. I got to change for third team.
Okay. Third team it is. Currently, you have Jaylen Brown, Steph Curry, Tyrese Haliburton, Devin Booker, Domantas Sabonis. Would you like to remove Domantas Sabonis?
Why are you telling me to remove Domantas Sabonis?
I don't know. Did you have Anthony Edwards on there?
No, I think what's going to happen is, bro, out of respect, I wanted to put Tyrese Halliburton on here. It's not his fault. He doesn't deserve it. But I think, again, Anthony Edwards is going to go in over Tyrese Halliburton for me. I know, I get it. Like, he was on pace to have a top 12 season this year. But, dude, like, I can't, I got to put Anthony Edwards on there above him. And I've been sorting these numbers, but I'm not taking Steph Curry off. Advanced analytics say he's been better between him and Booker and Ant. Obviously, he's had some different functional issues this year, but he's still shooting 40% from three on 12 attempts a game or whatever else it is. 92% from the line, 57% effective field goal percentage, better than all of them as a scorer for most of the year. But Tyrese, he's had to take a little bit of a dive just because of the injury, and it's only because of the injuries, not because of his actual play. So, Indiana Pacers fan, he deserves to be an All-NBA player. It's only the reason I have that is because of injuries. But Anthony Edwards gets that. He played 75 games this year. Devin Booker needs to be there. I can't take him off, and Steph has to be there. And I'm not taking Domantas Sabonis, who's leading the NBA in triple doubles. He's having one of the, from a stat perspective, he's been dominant this entire year. He's literally been great. He should have been an all-star this year. For some reason, Ryan Blackburn is not loving Domantas Sabonis this year, when on the season he's played a bunch of games, by the way. And if you even just put his numbers next to Anthony Davis, which I'm not Ryan Blackburn, he's not been better than Anthony Davis because, who knows. But this year,
he plays better one-on-one against him, that's for sure.
Sabonis has played 78 games this year. He's averaging 19.5, 13.8, 8.3, 59% from the field. He was at 41% from three, but then reality caught up. 37.8% from three, 70% from the free throw line, 61% effective field goal percentage. And again, the BPM and VORP and analytics lean him over Anthony Davis, even though he hasn't been better. That's a part of the story. He's had a 6.7 box plus minus.
Yeah, I guess
he's averaging 20, 14, and 8.
Here's my take. He would have been on my honorable mentions.
Honorable mention?
Yeah. No, he's next up on the list.
Paul George.
Yeah. Have you looked at Paul George's numbers too?
Yeah, he's been good. Are you kidding me?
Paul George, by the way, 9th in EPM this year.
Oh my gosh.
Ahead of Tyrese Halliburton, ahead of Donovan Mitchell, ahead of Steph Curry, ahead of Devin Booker, ahead of Jason Tatum.
Only EPM.
It's
everything leans to Montes. Everything else leads to Montes. I'm looking at it right now. It leans to Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean?
Because I think the job that he has to do is just more difficult.
22, 5, and 3. And 72 games played. Over 20, 14, and 8?
I don't know, man. I watched the playoffs last year.
Oh, we're doing playoffs for a regular season slot?
Look, there's plenty. There are plenty of reasons that I don't think I think that Domantas Sabonis is as optimized of a player statistically as there is in the NBA. And here's why. They run all DHOs with him as the hub. They have as much athleticism and perimeter shooting and spacing around him as they possibly could, with guys even their fringe guys like Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes on the wing. Those guys are, one, they're not stealing rebounds, so Sabonis is going to get all of them. And De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk and guys like that are going to finish all of those shots, or they're all those plays with a shot, and it's going to get him all of those assists. I don't see him as a dynamic creator. I don't see him as a good defender. I don't see him as I think that there are some things that he does really, really well. He is a good bully in the post sometimes. He is somebody who, when he gets handsy on the defensive end, he can be helpful. But I don't want to be because he's not Jokic, and so many people compare him to
Jokic. Though this is only about Paul George and Domantas Sabonis, and you're telling me that because Paul George averages 3 more points per game and has 0.6 more steals per game, and is a better 3-point shooter and free throw shooter, everything else leans to Domantas Sabonis.
I think of the spacing that Paul George provides. I think of the defense that Paul George provides. I think of all of the layers to like what we just saw against the Clippers with Denver. Like I think of all of the winning plays that Paul George makes, and I don't necessarily think. I mean, Domantas Sabonis is a hustler. He does a great
this
job.
man is
And
letting 3
here's the thing:
games
he would be
influence his
16th or
decisions.
17th on my All NBA list. 16th or 17th.
Paul George. Anyway, all right. I love Paul George too, but I just think Domantas Sabonis again is just going to get slided for whatever reason. Okay, all right. That's 13 All NBA. We got to get through this. We got to.
Yeah, we have Anthony Davis. We have Steph Curry shared. I'm keeping Tyrese on there. I am keeping Devin Booker obviously, and I've got Paul George.
All right.
You've got Jaylen Brown. That's the only one that I didn't have. I thought that I thought that there was enough credit that I could have given to Derek.
You think
White.
Paul George has been better than Jaylen Brown this year?
I think so. Yeah. I think that if you swap those two guys, that the Celtics lose absolutely nothing.
We're doing this swap thing again. Okay, I mean I have no issue with it, but okay, all right, let's move on.
Okay, next slide. First team all defense. We were very similar on this one. I decided to throw Bam Adebayo on the end of my first team, but we each have Rudy Gobert, Victor Wembanyama, Herb Jones, Jalen Suggs, and I have Bam. You have Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah,
I have zero argument with that.
Yeah, Bam is one of my favorite players in the league. I know that I have a Bam obsession, so it was very hard to keep him off this. But I think the best defense in the NBA. You get two nods in there. Jalen's been incredible. Herb Jones been incredible. Victor Wembanyama is going to be locked in there for years to come.
He's also just one of those guys, Bam, that makes Joker go to things that he doesn't want to go to. Like he forces him to get creative on the offensive end.
You see how Ryan's looking through everything through Nuggets glasses, Paul George and Bam. Meanwhile, I'm looking through the NBA lens.
I could call Bam the most switchable defender in the league. I could call him the best all around defender. Like there's plenty of things I could say.
I agree. I love Bam. I think he's in conversation for best defensive player in the playoff setting, bar none. Go ahead.
Also, it means something to me when you can guard the best player in the world. Like it means something. And he can't
guard the best player in the world. He averaged 30 on 67 true shooting. He did not guard the best player in the world. No, he didn't. Anthony Davis functionally had better numbers versus him as a defender, and so did Rudy Gobert. He did. The individual ISO numbers and all that, yes, 1,000%. Now, again, if you're crediting Bam plus Spoelstra and Butler, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying you can't bring up an individual matchup versus the best player in the world because he got absolutely flame broiled and cooked in that series. Again, 30 on 67 true shooting. You've never seen that before. Never happened in the finals.
Oh, never seen happened. Joker before. That's a different. There's a
okay, but Anthony Davis had I'm not saying that like he did a good job, but but anyway, go ahead. Bam.
They took him off of him. Slander. They're like, we have to go to Rui. What are we?
They don't have a fourth option. They try to put Kevin Love on him at times. What's he going to do?
My God.
And Bam's not a shot blocker either, so you can't play him off. That's just not. It's not the same function.
Next slide. Alex Caruso, KCP. Man. We both have. So I've got Jaden here. You had him on first team. You had Bam.
No Anthony Davis on yours.
We each have Derek White. I had Chet.
Yeah, Chet's good though. Good.
I wanted to find an opportunity to credit the Thunder.
Yeah.
Because I could have gone to 4 different guys for them. I could have gone to Lou Dort, could have gone to Shea, could have gone to Chet, or I could have gone to Jalen Williams, of all people, like J-Dub. I decided to go with Chet, just looking at some of the numbers that he has both on the perimeter and on the interior. Like he unlocks so many things for them on both ends of the floor. Like I think that he deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah, for sure. I think Alex Caruso, bona fide again, one of the reasons why, maybe the main reason why their defense is so good in the clutch. KCP, I mean, really just not much. Unless you haven't watched Denver. Well, unless you haven't watched Denver this year, I just don't think how you can say they're the top 2 clutch defense, a top 7 defense in the league, and then not have one of KCP or Aaron Gordon on the list. Just if you understand Jokic's function as a defender, it just doesn't make any. He covers for so much of what Murray and Jokic are doing on a daily basis. He might be the best chaser in the NBA too. Like what he does to Steph Curry every time they play, what he did to Damian Lillard. Like he's literally a next level defender. So to me, he has to be on there. I got Bam. Derek White's been incredible this year, and then Anthony Davis.
It's fair list. And for all the reasons that you wanted to credit AD in the All NBA section, that's why you have to have him on here. So totally understand it. Totally agree with it. I debated between him and Chet.
Right.
Next and last, all rookie. We had overlap on 4 guys here. I had Jaime Jaquez Jr. as my 5th guy, you had Keontae George, but we each had Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren, Brandon Miller, and Derek Lively II. All 4 of those guys are like I think the top 3 are locks for me. I'm not sure I would have Derek Lively. Like there's enough guys that I think you could mix and match. One of the things that like one of the
Or
numbers that I'm
Keontae George or Derek Lively. You would have
um
Keontae George.
if I go to my next pick here, Amin Thompson
Yeah.
has played just as many minutes as Derek Lively.
Yeah.
And to me, like Lively, obviously, he has a role. He plays a unique role and has really helped the Mavericks. But they also benched him, and they also
Right.
put him behind a guy that they traded for in Daniel Gafford. And while he has been helpful, like he has fallen off. Jaime Jaquez Jr. same thing. Like he was a guy that they relied upon desperately. Miami did throughout the beginning of the season, and they're still in the playoff race. Like as much as I want to credit a guy like Keontae George, I just can't.
Yeah, I just think people probably need to watch Keontae beyond like their individual team play. He's been spectacular this season, and he just has this unique ability to be able to help and play at such a level that his playmaking, his shooting have become a true dynamite for that team. I think Keontae is going to be an all-star level guard. He is so good. He has been so good. His minutes, as the minutes have increased, his role increased, he's been better. I love Keontae George, and maybe this is just player bias. You know, I just love his game. I think he's going to be an absolute lights out player one day.
I actually didn't have him on. It was tough. I wanted to throw on Gigi Jackson. Gigi's played a ton for Memphis. He's averaging over 13 points a game at like 6'8", 6'9", doing a lot of like great stuff as a wing for them. He has been able to kind of run wild with them for a little bit. Keontae, I think, like has been good, but there are some numbers there that are pretty comparable to Scoot Henderson for me from an efficiency and like turnover standpoint, which I'm just like,
you see how
ooh.
Ryan just sets up players for slander for no reason? Just ridiculous analysis, Ryan.
They're like, I just did the comparison. Like they're not that far off. And so if I'm going to eliminate Scoot for being as bad as he has been, like I didn't know where to put those guys. So like I did some comparisons between like Case and Wallace, I think has to be on there. He's been helpful as a playoff guy for a playoff team. Amin Thompson even has done that too.
Yeah.
Osar Thompson was the guy that I was a little bit shaky on. Him and Gigi Jackson.
Incredible. Yeah.
I decided to leave them on because like Osar was great early in the year. Gigi's been great for the second half of the year. But like I could have thrown on Keontae George as well. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm very out on Keontae when I shouldn't be.
Well, I don't think everybody's going to have that. I just have me personally. When I look at Keontae, what he's been able to bring to Utah, I value that so much given where their roster is, and I maybe again pressing into his future a little bit. I think he has an extremely bright future for him.
And there's like maybe that's what the all rookie is for. Honestly,
Right.
like if that's the case, if you believe in that,
if that's the case, Pods should be. If we're being honest, Pods should be consensus first team because he's had a more important role than almost any rookie in the NBA this year.
Interesting.
I mean, if we're just doing that, because no one has had to do more. Think about it, he's closing for the Warriors because they don't have another option to go to, even at 6'5". You know, like, and they're trusting him to rebound, to defense, to play defense, to hit shots.
I guess we're not throwing in Chet into that category in terms of like what is necessary. Because I think that Chet has like been like he's been the guy that's affected the playoff teams.
I'm saying like Chet and Pods. I'm saying Chet and Pods.
Yeah. Going back to this, like I think Jaime has an argument for that too. Like he's averaging 28 minutes.
All three of them.
Holy cow.
But they don't feel as desperate though. Like they have they have Haywood Highsmith, some people off the bench they can go to. They want to play Duncan and play smaller, No,
I think that's fair. Okay. I think that's it, man. I think that's all I got on this one. Any awards that I missed? Any ones that you're still mad about?
That Paul George bonus one for me is a little tough, but this was a great action, man. I went into a lot of stuff looking at this. I was surprised rookie wise how much I love Brandon Miller's season so far. I didn't expect him to be this good, but he's been terrific this year. The MVP honestly thing wasn't really all that much of a conversation. The Kobe White one was fun, especially with the Tyrese Maxey portion of this. To DeMar DeRozan, like how good he's been in the clutch, to Steph Curry, Jokic numbers. That the most contested one for me was still the Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, and Kevin Durant, because all four of them have arguments.
We did cover clutch player of the year. We both had DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
Both we could certainly have made arguments for Nikola Jokic and Steph Curry, J.K. Walrus, but
Right.
those guys are all like deserving candidates for that. But I do agree with you. The back end of the first team All NBA, that final spot is going to be very interesting to see how it breaks down.
Right.
But hey,
yeah, man, it was a lot of fun.
Folks, let us know in the comments where we screwed up. I'm sure it'll be me. That you're going after and not Swipa, because Swipe is just so good at this, man.
They're gonna say Keontae George shouldn't be that high, so I'm telling y'all I don't care. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't care. I'm putting Keontae there.
Well, hey, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Weekends with Swipa. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. By the way, who do you have for UConn and Purdue tonight?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna lean UConn, leaning the best team.
Seems fair. Klingon, a lot of fun to watch. He's really interesting. I was shocked at how mobile he was for such a big dude. But hey, we'll see what happens. Everybody, go check out the national title game. Should be a lot of fun. Should be very interesting. The Nuggets, they come back tomorrow. They will face at Utah. Maybe Keontae George can get some revenge on Ryan Blackburn. I think that seems like a good idea.
He's going to cook the Nuggets for 35 in a clutch loss, too. And Jokic is going to be terrible. And long be Ryan's fault.
I love it. That's the reverse jinx at work, folks. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. We will talk to you guys next weekend.